Um, Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending this sharing session. It is my pleasure to introduce and welcome Raphael Gielgen. He is the head of research and trend scouting at VITRA. For those people who don't know what VITRA is, VITRA is a world-renowned furniture maker, and they're famous for their innovative ways. They basically produce a lot of the furniture that we all know as classics today, the Eames furniture, Prouvé, and so on and so forth. That's why there are some people from VITRA here today to support Raphael. But what's very interesting is that VITRA, even though they're well known for being innovative, finds it necessary to hire somebody like Raphael to constantly poke themselves. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over the mic to Raphael to tell you what he does.
Thank you. So, by the way, you could relax now like the dog over here is on a reception in Boston, because you get all the slides, you get a link list, so you get the entire information you can still consume. Good. Before I start, I have a cool movie about our company, 3 minutes, a little bit like that, and enjoy.
This is the VITRA chair. This is the VITRA armchair. This is the VITRA house. This is an office full of VITRA. VITRA comes from the tree. This is a film about VITRA. VITRA makes furniture in the houses and shops and slides. In a place where there are few distractions from making furniture, in private and life. Actually, VITRA is a family from Switzerland, the Fairbounds. Founders Erica and Billy, their sons Rolf and Raymond, and Raymond's daughter Nora. And then there's the Eameses, the Nelsons, the Pantons, the Garies, and all the other design pioneers. But first things first. Willy Feldbaum was a man with an inquiring mind. That's why in the middle of the last century, the shop fitter flies to New York. There he sees a chair that so fascinates him, he has to know who designed it.
He said it changed his life.
He meets Ray and Charles Eames and decides to become a furniture maker.
He really wanted to bring this chair to Europe for people to have, obviously, to sell, but also to be, to get this idea.
Being a good designer is a lot like being a good host, say Charles and Ray. So they get together more often. Young Rolf, still just a teenager, travels with them as an interpreter. Despite the language barrier, the Feldbaums develop a deep understanding of the designer's work. The details are not the details. They make the product is their maximum. 1956, the Eameses created an armchair that was to become a superstar. Raphael was simple. What would a modern English club chair look like? Contemporary, but comfortable, like a well-worn baseball glove. And even today, over 50 years later, people at VITRA still ask,
What would Charles say?
What would Charles say?
I don't care about Charles.
Where's Ray?
VITRA wants to create furniture that has never been seen before, and works for designers who want to revolutionize the chair. Together they experiment with colors and forms, materials and manufacturing methods that are groundbreaking. Their ideas often provoke serious head shaking among the Swiss engineers.
Très painful. The general Gielgen was always saying that there would be problems and disappointments.
Shit.
But after 4 years of head shaking during development of, say, the Panton chair, objects are created that are today considered design classics and can be found in the Museum of Modern Art in New York.
It's these kind of constraints and these pressures which I think bring out the best in all of us.
It might seem new, but VITRA has always done it. VITRA builds shops. Size doesn't matter, but quality and design do. People have high expectations. And VITRA keeps growing. Some would say it is Rolf and Raymond's fault. They're obsessive collectors. VITRA has the largest collection of chairs in the world. Rolf collects them the way others collect stamps. Where do you put all the stools, chairs, and benches? In 1989, architect Frank Gehry is asked to create a home for the growing collection. The challenge is too small for him, so he throws in a production hall, an office building, the VITRA Design Museum, and even a chair. Zaha Ali, Alvaro Rossina, Fidel Andy, Herzog Enorme, and Salama follow.
Pour pouvoir faire ce projet culturel, il faut une armée.
Mais une armée dans le bon sens du terme.
Over 3 decades, they formed the VITRA campus.
There is so much inspiration there for a designer, for us, for all of us.
With the VITRA campus, the furniture manufacturer finally turns into a project.
I feel at home at VITRA.
At last, something's happening in White and Pride. People in the world are changing, and VITRA continually needs new chairs and tables for living and for working.
I do my best.
Created by an ever-growing group of designers. Many people sit on VITRA, Keith Haring, Grace Jones, Billy Wilder, Kate Moss. Choosing VITRA means getting lifelong enjoyment out of it. How can VITRA make such a promise? Because VITRA has the world's best tools, the hands of Marcus Bogerson, and the hands of Daniel Bowman, and of Noel Bukluk, and of Ina Bertel.
This is making a big difference from VITRA to the others.
And because meticulous collaboration with the designers creates durable, long-lived products, and because these products are truly put through their paces.
The German manufacturer are probably more.
Don't forget you are Italian.
Yeah, also more precise.
Don't forget you are Italian.
Sometimes.
Once all that's in place, the result is an original that can begin its journey. It will be passed on, will age beautifully, writing its own story. It is an original. The original comes from.
Good. So, I work for them as a trend scout and researcher, so my job is not to be in Switzerland, my job is to be there where you are, our customers. But being a trend scout, there's one point important. You have to have a backup. My backup is my home. I have a little farm in Bavaria, close to the Bavarian forest. We share this space with animals and with a youth group from the Catholic Church. They stay with us. They are kids with a kind of a trauma. And so that is a little bit my backup, my physically backup. But how you come to a job like what I do? So I get a meeting. I met a person and he really changed my life, like the Eames changed the life of Willy Fehlbaum. I met Bertrand Piccard. I don't know if you're familiar with this person. He's a real pioneer. He's a Swiss man. His grandfather is the world record holder going deep with a submarine years ago. And when we meet each other, he has a dream going with a solar-driven airplane around the globe. And he achieved that. So last year, I think. But when we meet each other, he just finished going with a balloon around the globe. Non-stop, without making one stop, going non-stop with a balloon around the globe. So when we meet each other, he shared with us an experience. He told us he was crossing the desert of Mali with around 60 miles an hour. And you have not to be a scientist. With 60 miles an hour, it's a long journey. And the gas is maximum for 25 days. So he checked the computer and he find a jet stream above. So he lift up and then immediately he get a call from the Swiss team in Switzerland. Hey Bertrand, what are you doing? I lift up. Why you lift up? There's a jet stream above. I don't want to go slow. Nobody told you to go fast. Go immediately down again. Why? I'll let you know why. And then the weatherman told him, Bertrand, if you go up, for sure you get a jet stream for the next 2 days. But then it's a bad weather system and you will end up in the North Pole. And then he told a quote to us. He told to us, you all here, you are great pilots. But in life, you need a weatherman. In life, you need a person who gives you a long-term perspective about the things you do and you never consider. So think, who's your weatherman in life, in private life, and in business life? And that changed my life. So my day was done. It was 2 o'clock. I go immediately home and change how I can change my life in terms of this weatherman topic. The other topic he mentioned out is how you can make something new. Because we believe you make something new about the new. And he told us, no, making something new is nothing about new ideas. Making something new is fighting against old ways of thinking. If you really believe in something, you should learn to think the opposite way. By thinking the opposite way, you see the entire spectrum and then you are able to make a clear decision. So that links me to VITRA and brings me to my job. Every company has a core. You have seen in the movie, our core is design. And out of this knowing about design, we make products which are standards. Think about the Alkoven or the Join. Alkoven is now 16 years old. The first sofa in the office is now 16 years old. And this core is protected by VITRA from Eckhard Meisel. He's the chief design officer. So my job is not to touch the core. My job is not to design the next sofa. My job is to flipping around pictures like confetti into the company, that they are inspired, that they are curious, and that they challenge the status quo and go beyond what they believe what could be possible. My scope of work is quite easy to understand. So first is search, and search means research. I'm not a scientist, by the way. I never was in the university. Only now in my job as a researcher, I go to visit to universities, but I never was in my professional life a student. So reading these kind of articles, you get a feeling about topics which could be interesting. And for sure, my life is not getting better. It's even worse when I read this kind of article. I live in Germany. A lot of our country lives from industrialization. But there's a trap. Doing research or like a trend scout, it's not about reading these things. You have to understand. You have to bring these things in a clear context. That means you have to leave the desk. And leaving the desk means you have to leave the comfort zone of your organization, and you have to leave the comfort zone from your own discipline. So bring this term of the robots in a new chapter, in a new context means what means robots in the architecture topics. And that is my next level, is understand. What you see here is an architecture faculty in Switzerland from the ETH in Zurich. And this department is run by Gramazio and Kohler, two crazy guys, two architects who believe to build structures with robots which a human labor never could do. In the beginning, the robots were standing on the ground. They were wide, around 3.5 tons. But then you can, for sure, you understand they're limiting themselves because the robot arm is limited. So they crack up the law of gravity and mount now the cranes under the roof. They get now a robot exercise hall, 45 meters large, 15 meters wide, and 15 meters high, where 4 robots, independent, could build any construction. Okay, at that moment you could say, Rafa, come on, I've never seen a robot in Singapore and we are quite advanced. Why we should use a robot for construction? And now is coming the context. We have to learn to bring things in several contexts. I was last time in February here at the Future City Lab, or March, and I met the general contractor from Hong Kong. And he told me, and I asked him, hey, why are you here? And he told me, I'm interested in the research fields of the Future City Lab. And which kind of field is super interesting for you? And he told me robotics. And I say, come on, you're kidding. Robotic in Hong Kong? Why? And then he told me, okay, you have to understand, actually, the labor for building buildings in Hong Kong is limited, first. Second, you never find the right person who build a building which lasts for the next 30 years. Think about that. And then the robot story makes sense. The next level of my work is create. So it would be a trap if I only go to you and to universities and live in a super beauty life. I have to wear the rubber boots and have to go into the field. So going in the field and create means being in touch with my customers and do something what maybe nobody has done before. You see a picture where we share with 3 companies, with BMW, with Adidas, and with the pharmaceutical company Roche experience. All of them have to build a new R&D facility. But so we combine them. So we say to BMW, if you have to do that in Adidas and Roche, why we not sit together on a table and find out what could be the new patterns of an R&D facility in terms of space-wise in the future? That means create. The next point of my work is connect. It would be a lost opportunity if I only meet the people in person and I never would share that with my co-workers and also with my clients. So there is another format. It's called the learning journey. Every year I do 2 or maybe 3 kind of journeys with our corporates, so with corporate customers, into the world. So we take them out of their comfort zone from Europe and bring them maybe to the US. We go to New York and we go to San Francisco, to the Bay Area, but we only spend 30% of the time close to our industry. Means going to headquarters like Airbnb or going to architects. The rest of the time we go to companies like Singularity University, to NASA, to the Autodesk Pier, to Frog Design, to a tech company like Omlong, that they get an understanding to see the full picture of the world of tomorrow. Because being a weatherman also means leaving your discipline, not be only the expert in your field or maybe in your aircraft. The difficult thing of my work is how you could transfer all this kind of information to people like you, that you can handle with that. I'm not a friend of reports because writing reports is quite boring and takes a lot of time. And I'm the confetti man. So how could you use another term to inform customers, A&D community, and also my colleagues? What we have to understand is that the future is bigger than a piece of paper. But what happens actually is that the screen, the horizon of our imagination is not bigger than a smartphone. We reduce all our ideas on the screen like that. And that is a trap. So we have to think in a bigger picture. The biggest pictures in the histories was panoramas. Huge paintings, the most of them was done in Europe in the age between 16 and 19th. And these pictures was pictures of big stories. This picture is from the German and French War in the early 19th and has a dimension from 124 meters in a circle. So you can go around to the entire picture. You go inside the picture and then you get this kind of immersive experience. What makes it interesting, maybe if you look to this scenery where the soldiers are coming with the train and you turn around, if you look now here in that direction, you have forgotten what you have seen. And that is also the future. We have to learn to think in bigger contexts and we have to surround ourselves with them. I'll let you know why. There's a guy, I learned today, he's living in Singapore and teaching on a university. His name is Parakana. Parakana is chief economist from CNN and he also often talks at the World Economic Forum. And he come to a point how he could give governments, corporates, university, a term of advices how they can shape the world and how can they map their own future by themselves and reboot the map which is in their mindset today. And in this book, he want to figure out how things are connected to each other. So where are the strongest factories in the world, the most startups, the biggest venture capitalists, the strongest universities, the strongest GDP cities, the old one like Tokyo, Yokohama, and the new one like Shenzhen. And if you only look inside a few maps, you will find a TED talk in the link list, then you understand you should reboot often your map in your brain. Why we should do that? Thinking in the world of tomorrow, look, all the things you do, they will last for the next 50 and 60 years. But who could be sure what could be in 50 and 60 years? So to develop a building from today into the next would be not the right case. It would be perfect to think what could be in the year 225, 235, and then going backwards. And for that reason, this panorama could be interesting. That is the beginning of the last panorama, by sketching it, by collecting these kind of articles, finding out the relevances. And this panorama you will find now in your file. It is a plot. It is a beta version because it's brand new. I show them since Monday the first time. So if you plot it, it's 3.5 meters large. And then you can make a first deep dive. And for sure, for Asia, we have to change some things because that is less or more like an international panorama. And the interesting of the panorama is as follows. So on the left-hand side, you have thesis. Thesis about the future of work, where we believe that would happen and that are wishes of the people. Then you have 8 topic fields. I go later a little bit deeper inside the topic fields. Also, these topic fields are related to each other. And beyond these articles, you find quotes, you find summaries, you find facts, reports, and white papers, which build up at the end of the day this panorama. What makes this panorama interesting, if you deep in again, one thing is coming back, and that is intuition. We lose intuition because in the world where Alibaba and Amazon is cover our life, we lose intuition. We have to understand things in ecosystems, how they're related to each other. And the other point is the volume, the mass on information is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So what we have to learn is how to bundle innovations, and it's like cooking. Yeah. Every time when you cook today in the evening, you don't start with tons of recipes. You know what you want to serve today, and that is less or more the same idea. What is interesting for the old world, and for the old world, I mean all these companies who are older than Facebook, Google, and Instagram, is they have to do it again. The most of the companies which still exist, like the Fortune 500, they have to learn to do it again. It's like, I would ask for VITRA, not what would Willy Fehlbaum, the grandfather, Nora Fehlbaum, where he would go, or not what would Charles say. I would ask today, what would Charles do? So ask yourself, maybe your company DPA would be founded today, what your founders would be today. To give you an idea about that, we have to understand where we come from. Singapore and also the old world is built out of the industrial economy. The industrial economy is like I name them the board game industry, the board game economy. The board game economy is linear, is one dimension, and has only one direction. It's an easy world. It's a world of a generic repetition. You cannot make big improvements. You cannot be the superstar in AutoCAD, yeah, because it's limiting at one point, yeah. Or you cannot be the superstar being in making swivel chairs, yeah. And what is special at these kind of games, you play against each other. The rules are generic, so you learn them and then you play. And if the game is over, the game is ended and you start again. The world of tomorrow is a little bit different. It is a little bit like, comparing that in that term, Xbox or PlayStation. Xbox or PlayStation, I would say, what is the first, if you compare it, what makes the difference? First is, in these kind of games, if you have no idea how to achieve the next level, the game will help you. You will get an advice. You will get a chat. Think about, you would learn every week or maybe every day something new. Ask yourself when you have learned the last time something new, how long it is. 1 week, 1 month, hopefully not longer than a half year. Second is, in that games, you never play alone. You have to collaborate with the other ones because the challenges are too big. You cannot do that alone. You have to collaborate with 5, 6, 8, 10 people. And the most difficult thing is the game never ends. It is a permanent iteration. So what we have to learn is life now, beginning maybe from Monday, is a permanent improvement and iteration to be better again, to learn, to bring the things in, and to work on this kind of prosperity. And that makes a difference for companies. So companies actually, all the old ones, are in between the evolution, like making the new swivel chair, and the revolution to find something new, what you have never seen before. And that really kills the company, because that is a question of belief. The traditional people say, no, we want to keep everything that is safe, we make money with that. And the rebels like me say, I don't care about swivel chairs because in 10 years nobody uses swivel chairs. But I give you an example that you need both. You need the evolution and you need the revolution inside your company. This guy is the CEO of Mercedes-Benz. Hopefully you know these famous cars. By the way, I don't drive a Mercedes, so I have no relationship to him in person. I was invited to a conference and he had a conversation, like a sofa conversation with Sheryl Sandberg from Facebook. And she was provocating him. You will find the video on the link list. She was provocating him like, hey, come on, Dieter. He's called Dieter Zetsche. Your company is more than 100 years old. You have more than 400,000 employees. You're not dynamic enough. You're not agile enough. What is the purpose of your company in the future? What do you want to change? What is your contribution in the next 15 years? And he came over with a super answer. And that is for me a little bit like a blueprint to understand this change in the architecture of work. He mentioned out, okay, if we build the new Mercedes-Benz S-Class, it's not a big deal. But the big deal is we want to build the best car in the world. And that is a promise to our customer. Building the best Mercedes-Benz car in the world means from the old S-Class into the new one is an evolution. You need engineers, super precise, super perfect, high engaged, but he's no room for experiment. He's no room for failure. He's no room for mistake. That is still the old world, and we still need a little bit the old world. But in the same company are some crazy guys who are challenging the status quo of the logistics of Alibaba and Amazon packages into the cities. What would happen if we don't need any more of these kind of sprinters, this kind of small trucks who bring the logistic into the cities? So that means the world, the working world, and also you as an architecture office, you need these guys who take care about the old business models of DPA, who take care about these revenue streams which are still existing. But you also need this group of rebels, and believe me, you have rebels in your house. Find where are the rebels and bring them together. But both of them need one, and that is respect. I have to respect my colleagues who do boring cars, and my boring cars colleagues should respect me, the guy who's only living like in a rocket or on a satellite. The other point is, and that is super special for you as architect, that is the digital trap. In a way we believe now, the digital is a little bit like if you drink too much alcohol. After a while, you forget that alcohol is, and then you forget that you drink alcohol. So then everything is alcohol. And so is also with the digital world. I read an article from Jen Murphy. Jen Murphy, she is a independent auditor, and she shared a story here. She was traveling in the US, and then she booked a hotel online. She checked in hotel online for sure. There was nobody at the reception, so online, and then in the room, she could order food by the iPad. When she leaves the hotel, she was asked by the smartphone for a recommendation. And then she thought, what a poor life. And for sure that Airbnb must be successful, because what is the duty of space? The duty of space, of any space in the world, is that people want to be located. They want to be part of the space. The duty of a hotel is, if you want to go to Lisbon, you want to feel that I'm in Lisbon. It should smell in Lisbon, the surface, the material, and hopefully also the concierge speak better English because he's to guess. So, it is not about to design a generic hotel that they're all looking the same. And the success of Airbnb is, if you travel to any space in the world with Airbnb, you're located there. And people has a desire, they want to be located. They want to know, now I'm in Singapore and not in Wuppertal or in Cologne. And you know what? That will be increasing. As more people going digital, as more they crave for real human connection. I really believe the future of the workspace is a public area. Because that are the people, that are the places people get this kind of interaction. And the history was in the past from the space into the co-working space, and the next step is the public space. The next point is, okay, if we understand, wow, that's great, people want to be located, but what is the magic moment of a space? What is the highly attractive of space? Since I am a VITRA, I always make this funny story. I want to understand what is the most successful places where the spots from Airbnb. What you see here is the most successful place from Airbnb in 2017. It was a tiny cabin in Oregon. It's in Washington in the US at the Pacific coast. By the way, in 2016 it was a cabin, another one. In 2015 it was another one cabin. More than 300,000 people in a month want to stay there in that cabin. They don't want to stay in a penthouse. They don't want to stay in a 5-star hotel. They don't want to stay in a boat. They want to stay in this lousy cabin. Ask yourself, and that is also quite easy for you. Architecture, as we as people, even you have not to be too educated as an architect to understand that, we are easy coded semantic wise. We understand our surrounding every time as an ecosystem, not as an ecological ecosystem. Things are related to each other. And this ecosystem is really authentic. So that means we have to provide this kind of an ecosystem experience, because people combine elements and feel out something is wrong in that space. I don't know what, but here's something I don't feel good. And so for that reason, people highly want to go there. Now we can question ourselves, okay, there is a power, people want to be located, there's a power of places, but what is with objects? What is with the smallest elements in architecture? With a chair, or with a table, or with a piece of anything, I don't know. So I want to share with you my favorite picture from the design fair in Milan. You know, the design exhibition in Milan, all the designers from around the globe traveling to Milan, and I'll show you my favorite picture. That is my favorite picture. I was misguided. I was in the university in Brera, it's Accademia di Belle Arte. Go upstairs. The ticket machine was collaborating from the, it's a pinacothèque of, so it's the collection of arts. And in a sudden I was inside the collection. This lady was sitting 15 minutes in front of this picture. After 15 minutes, I stopped counting. And then I want to understand, wow, why she was sitting there. I don't know, and I don't ask her, by the way. And when I was home, I was thinking about, can I find any, I wouldn't say evidence, but can I find any direction how we are linked to objects? And then I find an interesting quote from a curator from the Museum from Canada. What is the power of objects? What is the power of real objects? And all of you have these kind of objects at home. Maybe from your grandfather, grandmother, from your parents, things you brought back from your holiday, or maybe you have a piece which you really love. So we as humans are always connected to these kind of objects, like this small elephant who is traveling with me the entire year. So he is, I would say, there's no one elephant who travels more than this one in the world. And he's accompanying me that I'm not so alone. So, and then I think that is the biggest opportunity for you as architect. The duty of space first, the power of place second, and if you really take your job seriously, then you find the right objects to make outstanding places. And I also believe that a customer is willing to pay for that still the money because they are also humans. Until now, your customer are not any robots or cyborgs. The next point is special for a company who is in a size like you is to understand market not only out of a culture perspective about what happens there. There is a study in the internet, I only show you one slide, from Brookings. Brookings is a research institute in New York, in the US. So they check more than 120 large metropolitan areas and want to understand their new types of cities. So they are said there's a factory China, a knowledge capital, emerging gateways, Asian anchor, global giants, American midways, and international midways. So that means we have to understand for the several markets which we serve what is going on there. And if you see, Asia has several perspectives, maybe all of them without the international midways. So addressing a building to Shenzhen or addressing a building to Singapore makes for sure a difference if you quite understand not only money-wise what is they willing to invest, but also what is the context. What is the context of that area and what happens there? If you are interested, you can go deeper in this study. Now we come, that is for me the most important point. If you only want to remember one point, remember that. Hopefully you remember more than one point. So all the companies are now in this challenge to handle the change in the world. And that means in their markets, customers, organization, and also everybody from you in person. What it means for me as VITRA, what it means for you as a member of DPA. So what we have to understand, we all are storytellers. I make this picture at the design school in Stanford, where people are trained students and MBAs by design thinking since, 16 years or something like that. So and I was inspired by this storytelling idea. We used to tell stories because we share pictures on Instagram, and if you share pictures on Instagram, you don't have to tell a story. When I grown up, and I come from Spain, where my mother grown up, and talk to my friends in Germany, I tell them, I was there, and blah, 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 blah. So you have to explain, they have no picture. You have to tell in pictures. The other thing is there's no space for telling stories, and there's no time for telling stories because time is running. But now I come to the evidence story of the day from Mr. Alex Pentland. The Elephant and Me, we visited Alex Pentland. He's a professor, PhD at the MIT in Boston. And he was interested if social networks, if you have a highly engagement in social networks, if that make you smarter. Because in terms of this interaction, you meet a lot of people, blah, blah, blah. And there's a book, it's called Social Physics. And I want to explain that in another story. Think about maybe you work for Capital Ground, for this company, and you are in the communication department. And maybe you have around 50 colleagues and embedded in trust and cooperation. You have the interaction in this team, and after a while, you have this kind of collective intelligence. Like the landscape designers here in your team, they know after a while who has which talent, which skills, what can you learn from the other one. Pentland's theory is you learn much more if you leave the comfort zone of your discipline. So if you're an architect, you should spend the evening not with architects. You should spend the time with other persons. Or as more time mix you up with people out of DPA without quitting the job, you learn as more. The power of co-working is that, because what happens there, if you leave the company for a while, or maybe you go co-working, use a co-working space, you have people with a contrarian views, with diversity, and he named social learning. I give you an example. Think about you are an orchestra, DPA's orchestra, and you are the best violin players in the world. So that is meaning playing in your orchestra with the partitur What that is you leave the orchestra for a while and you make street music with people you never play with them in orchestra before. And you have no idea which song they play because it's a permanent iteration. So what we have to find out, how we could include this moment inside the company that we unlock the potential of everybody co-worker. I will share with you now some stories regarding to that. The best place I visited this year was in New York. It was in Brooklyn. And here was the you can learn from everyone. So that is the Brooklyn farm from Adidas. Adidas invested 2 years ago in a space in Brooklyn. And the story beyond is, there was a guy, when Adidas produced this knitted shoe, it's called Boost. I think the shoe is now 4 years in the market or 5 years. There was a guy from Brooklyn. He take the shoe. He was knitted, but he don't like these plastic stripes, so he cut them off with a cutter, and he put the video in the internet. And what happens is the shoe goes viral. And then anybody want to buy the shoe, but the shoe didn't exist at Adidas. And he named it Uncaged. So what happens now? Now you can buy the shoe, by the way. So there was a smart guy at Adidas. He really thought, hey, we can learn from everyone. But he came to the idea, we make a place between Portland and Adidas in Germany, so the two headquarters, in Brooklyn, and we make a full equipped shop floor where you can make shoes, balls, apparel, whatever. And inside the space, anybody can contribute his ideas. So maybe this guy says he's not a designer, he has no experience in design, but he has some crazy ideas. So if you would ask, hey, how many steps you need to make a shoe, he would say 6, because he has never made a shoe. If you would ask someone from Adidas, for the designers, he would say 126. And that makes a difference. So what happens, people from Adidas has to apply to go there, and these guys are find out by a community manager, by a lady from Korea, and then they mix up the team. And it's crazy what happens there. Another story. You can ask the crowd. At VITRA, before I start doing the hackathons, that's the next one, we start a crowdstorm. A crowdstorm is you have a task, you have a question, you address it into the internet, into the off, and you wait for answers. And we do a crowdstorm with a question. You travel to the year 2025, that was in 2017, explore the workspace of the future, you come back, let us know what you have seen. And it was done together with Adidas, with Cisco, and with a German telecommunication organization. At the end of the day, we get more than 250 ideas back. And now it's coming interesting thing. In 2017, 90% of the ideas was based on AI. In 2017. On virtual and augmented reality. On technical interfaces. And for sure, a little bit also space related. But 60% of the idea has no relationship anymore to the physical space. Think about that. We were shocked. We say, what? 60%? The future of work is not related anymore to the physical space? But we only have physical. VITRA is physical products, physical campus. We cannot digital. But then we want to understand that, this kind of message. They still believe in a physical space, but they also believe in a digital twin. So they believe, how cool would it be, beyond Skype, beyond FaceTime and WhatsApp, you could really participate, you get an immersive experience without being at the place, like without being at DPA, without being at Marina Bay Sands. What would be if the entire world has a digital twin and you really could get this kind of experience? So that was the sense beyond that. To the next topic. We start in last year in September. Something crazy, I show it now in a short movie. So we steal the idea from the tech industry, from the hackathons. It is a design sprint, a 1 day or 2 day design sprint. And the idea was, what would happen if you would address questions into the markets that they give me the feedback. So the first hackathon was in Japan. Doing a hackathon in Japan is like the same going with a Porsche in the desert, because the people are different. They're not so super open to make a hackathon, but it works. Everything works. At the end of the day, people want to develop their potentials. So the question in Japan was, hey, what would happen, dear Japan community, in the super dense city Tokyo, if we would open up the ground floor from the headquarters, the entrance area for the neighborhood? So if we make out of the private space ground floor a public space neighborhood. What happens at the end, Yahoo is doing that now. Yahoo in Tokyo, the entrance area is at the 8 or 9 level because in the other floor are shops and retail. Now 500 to 600 people every day share this 1,200 square meter space. It's called Yahoo Lodge. It's now like a business. And what is interesting for Yahoo, now that people can socialize from Yahoo with people who are not of the industry, like the Pentland moment. So mix them up. Yeah? And we have done another hackathon together with the Frame magazine. You know, maybe the Frame magazine, the design magazine. The question was there, what will survive from the physical world? If everything is going digital, what could be the purpose that a physical thing survive? And this young lady, she asked me during the hackathon and say, hey, Rafa, I need your help. And I said, why? I have no hybrid life like you had. Eh? I said, what is a hybrid life? And then she asked me, when you get your first PC? And I answer, I think I was 21. And she told me, when I was born, I was surrounded by a PC. You learn to stay focused on one thing. You go with your friends into the forest. You make a farmhouse. You do that, you play football. Since I grown up, I never learn to do only one thing. And never get a real intense relationship to the physical world. That's interesting. Think about that. So, also for me, sometimes you get out of these hackathons things you never thought about. Then we have done here a hackathon in Singapore at the Future City Lab. And by the way, you should visit it whenever you get the opportunity and show the current exhibition. Here was the question, what is a city, how you can make a city which is super dense with proximity, but also a city where you say, I want to live here. And which just has like a multi-use space. What was here interesting, he was a guy from Indonesia. He coded in less than 3 hours an entire city plot. I was, wow, so fast. And I asked him why. And he told me I can do it. That was the reason why I do it. He can't do it. Oh, okay, that's cool. I can't do it. The last one was in Stuttgart 4 weeks before. In Stuttgart, the university has like a co-working space. They have a co-working factory. They have a huge shop floor where several companies can share the shop floor. And here was the question, how people innovate in the year 2028. So the question, how could be the organization? How could be the architecture? What could be the tools? So the hackathons are often always open and we can learn a lot about that. Good. I'm still in time. Last points, I want to give you a short deep dive into our foresight panorama. So what's next? You can, by the way, my recommendation is you should plot it out maybe in two and should mount it here in 2 areas. You should leave post-its that people can leave comments. And when I come back, maybe in 4 or 5 months, we share the information because that is a beta version. Good. The first topic is machine minds. Your next city block over there, it's built by digital information. But what happens actually in Toronto, Google is building there a 6-hectare city. It's called Sidewalk Labs. And what makes it interesting, from 70 people of the core team, only 4 or 5 are architects. 6 are landscape designers, the rest are scientists, analytic people, who take data, what we talked before, and make out of the data, provide the best information to build the best city. Maybe they don't know about the Airbnb story that people want to live in a cabin. We will see but think about that. Now, in 2018, there is built an entire city with 6 architects, with only 5% or 3% of the group are architects. That's interesting. So if I would wear your shoes, I would ask myself, who's hacking my company? Who the hell will hack DPA? Which kind of transaction will be disrupted maybe in the future? But it's interesting because I highly believe in a cognitive world. A cognitive world is the same like Alexa. As more, if you want to, talk to Alexa. as more Alexa learn, as more your life get with convenience and experience. And cognitive building helps the operator to operate the building in the best ecologic and economical way, and me as a user to get the best experience. The next point is human core. That is in the Amazon and the new headquarter in this one of these three bubbles. Human core is, if the lifespan is going longer, people get a new idea about health and well-being. Because the most of you in your space, with less than 30 years, you could achieve 100 years without alcohol, maybe, and cigarettes. But my generation normally could not achieve 100 years. And maybe you're familiar with the new well-being index. It's getting quite more popular because people are sensitive. People make a choice where they want to work and why. You know C.B. Richard Ellis, they have a group in Amsterdam, they publish a book with the idea, hey, if you join us today and if you leave us in 7 years, our promise to you, you leave us healthier than today. Think about that. You would join a company and they would tell you, whenever you leave us healthier. That is more than any currency. That is more than any paycheck. That is the strongest incentive you can get. So that will be the new normal in these kind of buildings and also in the hospitality and hotel areas regarding to this kind of lifespan. And we have to rethink what is productivity and what is vitality. The war would not be won by a cool swivel chair. There's only 1% of the entire picture. It is food, it is air, it is. Good. The next point is talent transfer. We all, it don't matter if you are 25 or 55 or 60, we have to reskill us now every 2 or 3 years. We have to reskill us permanent. And reskilling don't mean you go to a lecture, you go to a talk. It's like breathing. You have to learn under the day. You have to learn ongoing. That is in your SUTD in Singapore. And what I really love in this university, that they have a lot of shop floors. And whatever you study, you get always the opportunity to make something. In making something, it's a beginning how you learn about a physical experience, because you are really able to endeavor your own, development and how you could empower yourself. This example here is agency in New York. It's called RGA. And here the example for learning. In the center of gravity, inside the market hall, 1,200 people are working in 2 floors with more than 8,000, 9,000 square meters. Are 32 big screens. And you know what happened in the screens? You show your work. You push a button like a buzzer and you show the work you do actually. And you show the work in the center of gravity, 32 screens. So any of your co-workers get the opportunity to be part of your work, to understand what's going on in the company. And they really flip it, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 2 minutes, 6 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes. So it's ongoing. It's like showing your project every day for the entire organization, the work worldwide. You find also a link. It's a 1-hour movie in the link list. And that is important about understanding the future skills. Actually, think about my orchestra story. First is, we should take other instruments. Second is, we should leave quite often the orchestra. That is our duty as a human. If we want to achieve prosperity in the world, that is our duty. It's not about the boss, blaming the boss and tell me, I want to go to the next university. You can do it tomorrow, here. On Monday, you can start your reskilling program. The next point is cluster typology. In the past, the center of the city was the most interesting point. In the future, there where it happens is the most important point. That is an example. That is the airport, close to the airport in Munich, in front of the airport. If you land in Munich, you need a 45 minutes ride by car or cab to the city. And by train, it's less or more the same time. The airport authority is pissed off about that. And what do they do now? They build an airport city. But not like one of these 1,500 airport cities around the globe. No, they want to build the hottest, coolest airport city, where all the smart minds from Bavaria say, there I want to work, because it's like the Silicon Valley. It's like Singapore, or it's like Cambridge and Boston. If you're in Boston and Cambridge, in this district where MIT is, and where all the scientists are, if you go for beer, you leave the bar smarter. For sure. You cannot be much more stupid. You can learn in every conversation there. There's so much. I was there with a dean, and he told me, Mr. Gielgen, now you're standing in the most intelligent crossroad in the world. Why? Eh? This institute, this institute, this institute, this institute. Can you feel it? No. So that is like, because proximity and density is connectivity. On connectivity, that is a key. There's a real key. So that means if you're developing a city quarter, city district, think about for who you do that, who is the community you bring in, and what could be here the moment of connectivity. The end. Ah, good. Now we can go to work. We have to understand one thing. In all things about the future, without looking back, you have no worse. So that means, for sure you should predict things, but you should go back also. The biggest asset for your company, and also for VITRA, and maybe for Mercedes-Benz, is the memory. The memory of the company. Because the memory of the company is like the family code. The memory code is installed over 40 years, 35, 50, 100, 120 years. We make a little bit the failure to bring these memories into the museum. That is the wrong position. What we should think is, memories are assets. How could you transfer these kinds of assets that they are accessible to your coworkers, that they are accessible to your customers, that they are, think about, if someone new is going to VITRA, he is first like, get a high five with a chair, because designers, architects, products, bam, 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 bam. And if you then start with the memory, that's a lot. But it's our job to make it accessible every day. Because that gives people guidance and orientation, and combining that with the world of tomorrow, then you will find your right step where to go to. If you're interested, connect with LinkedIn or look at my Flipboard, and believe me, when it will be done, never. We are in a transition time. We are still part of a journey. I have no idea what's going on. It's a little bit between resilience and elasticity, and that it is. Thank you. Questions. I think you have tons of questions. And you are the reason why I'm here, so let me know. Good.
You did a hackathon in Singapore.
Yeah.
What happened?
What happened? So, good question. I would say there was 3 main issues. First would be through rethinking the public ground. So public ground as a common space in the future, also like as a common whatever space you do, like a workspace. Second, I would say to rethink density in terms of variety, what happens inside the buildings. So like to hack up the ordinary program, like floor, staircase, restrooms, and to make it much more vibrant, like why should not be a factory inside this building? Or why not a pleasure room, and why not? So combine it, thinking really in a vertical city. And maybe you want to add something because you join it.
Well, I think it's multiple disciplines came over. I think there were like 15 people and from furniture. Hello, testing. Yeah, so people from various industry came over, like people from 15 countries. Yeah, came together for 3 days working on various projects, and they shared various collective experience to create something. Yeah. What did I get out of it? I think DP had 5 participants. Wenjin as well was there. So.
What did you do? What did you learn from it? Learning, right? What did you?
The collaborative experience between multiple disciplinaries across an intense period.
And on which topic you work? I don't remember. Which topic was you? What was your idea?
The Post Bank. The Post Bank, how it come together and create something more than just residential.
Yeah. Another question. No question. Ah, there's a mic. No question. Yeah. So what I highly recommend to you, is to, And what I would love to is the following. If you should use it, so mount on it, leave comments, this plot. Share, and when I come next time, I want to share with you your experience. I want to learn from you. So maybe, I believe that I would say 30%, there's a difference in Asia from around an average 30% of the topics. I don't know of the topics of maybe a few topics, but also the content. Where you say, okay, we are more advanced, or that is not an issue here.
So you want us to challenge or...
Sure, challenge it. Leave quotes on it with a post-it. Leave quotes on it with a, yeah. That when I come back, yes, sure, when I come back maybe in 3 or 4 months, because that is, pardon? Yeah, sure.
Let's take a you know, a vote. So maybe you want to be in charge. One is Studio 1 and one is Studio...
One is B.
1 and B. No, it's 1 and 2.
Ah, 1 and 2, okay. The 2 is now the B.
No. Yeah, maybe. And then you can be in charge of coding.
3 meter long.
Yeah.
Quite exciting, I think.
Yeah, leave post-it there and pen and collect things. As more you tag in, as more I will understand when I'm back. Yeah. And train yourself. Train yourself. Maybe there are other topics where you believe. So add your topics on that site. Make an extension and write your topics down when you don't believe they match in there.
Criticisms.
I'm just amazed that I think VITRA is engaged in so much of research that is done by yourself. How is it translated to the actual business of VITRA through your work and through your all these activities that's organized by VITRA? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I would say now we shown up now new products on the fair in Cologne, and they're really dedicated to the public space. And in this topic about talent transfer, how you could create spaces which are not like a school or university learn space, which helps you in terms of the interaction. VITRA is never the fan of a movement like, if you name it, agility or activity-based or whatever. That was never our story. For sure we accept that, and for sure we serve these kinds of customers. But for us, I think it's a little bit, one thing is to really understand what makes at the end space-wise in an entire ecosystem the difference and what will last. I give you one idea. I don't know if you're familiar with the Prové chair, the standard chair of Prové. The chair is built in 1927. Today, in 1918, 90 years later, the chair is still at McDonald's. You find the chair at WeWork, you find the chair in the university, you find the chair in an office, and you find the chair in a home. And I would say 50% of our portfolio cover that. Because our idea is that you make the product yours. We have no idea what you are doing with the product. It's not to say, yeah, if you sit there, you're more productive. By the way, I believe that is shitty. Yeah? Nobody's more productive because sit on another chair. Yeah? We still believe to inspire people and to provide them this kind of freedom where the modern world is built on. Yeah. And for sure, we enjoy every swivel chair which is sold, also for VITRA. I don't want to blame them.
More affordable. VITRA.
Yeah, I understand. I agree with you. I agree with you, and I want to bring in another picture inside. For sure, a chair from us is more expensive than all from the competitors. But you know what happens is, think about the Prové chair. If the chair is 15 years somewhere, 15 years, then most of the other chairs, you know where they are? In the waste. You can never sit on them. That is a price worth. And the next thing is, what happens? We have more and more customers who are renting the furniture. Who say, Hey, I want to be free. I want to free and make a decision. I don't want to have these kind in my books, so in my textbooks, yeah. And I have no idea what happens next. Yeah. It was quality is not what to say. Quality is not nationable. Nationable, verhandelbar. You cannot debate quality. Yeah. It's like how you say what you stand for in architecture quality. Yeah. I also would love if the chairs are 30% less or the table. But it's not my decision. You should talk to the owner.
But the reality is economic also. If you are paid more, you can think more, you can do more.
I know.
The competitive nature of things now is that you actually squeeze until you're not even able.
Sure, I understand.
Then the decision makers or the people who actually are funding such things, if they believe that good quality comes from paying for it, then more good quality.
I highly believe, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, that is a super argument which I take with me, because I would love that we would bring much more improvement in how we produce things, and this improvement reduce a price to the customer. I really love that. Yeah, but that is.
Comment to a criticism on you. I think we are now in a situation where, despite the fact that we have more tools, we're more productive, we're not paid more.
And yeah, I know.
Then we end up in what do we do?
Yeah.
More quality, how?
And believe me, we get also this pressure. We get this pressure, especially for new market. We know that. We cannot sleep on the wheel. Yeah. And also Mercedes are improvable. Also they are related to the competitors. Yeah.
No, but Arthur, you bring up a very interesting point, because in the past, people are thinking that because you're putting in so much R&D, the way you get back money, like the drug companies, right? Put in all the R&D, what you expect, you expect to be paid more for the high quality. So you sell to people, here's high quality, you should pay for it, and you create this divide. But in a world of the tomorrow, is quality supposed to be baseline? Is quality something of the right?
Yeah.
I mean, what would that?
It's a common goal, yeah.
What would that world look like, and how does the economics work in that world? Interesting, very interesting topic. Maybe that's your next hackathon.
Quality doesn't come like that. You really need a lot of time.
Yes.
Then that is have we paid somehow. Sometimes it's there to do research.
It's an interesting.
It's really educating people who are funding, products of yours, products of what you're doing. Buildings, architecture. If you look at the real world now, it's like branding. A lot of hype. So a lot of money goes to hyping so that you get a job, command the piece. So this reality also, VITRA gets a big name. VITRA is well known. VITRA can command certain things. So the reality now is that everybody is trying to put themselves in such a way that they're the best by hyping. Not really too quality. There are a lot of people who are doing very good quality work. They're not known. So where does that go? But I agree with you. I'm not going against that. I said quality should be the way. Everything we do should be consciously producing something of value, meaning. What you're saying now is certain trends out there, and we should be more conscious of.
Just to react to what Arthur was saying, the idea of quality, and I think in fact, just to add on to what Arthur was talking about in terms of quality, and I link it back to the article you shared, which is Google building a city based on data. Now, what if quality can be quantified in data? Now that, I've got an interest in this, that is the disruptive portion that may affect VITRA and may
probably is already affecting our industry as well as architects. When you quantify quality, then and you release this data, information is king, basically.
Sure, like you should look at. There's a company called BuildWords. If you Google it, I know BuildWords. There is like these construction tech startup platform. You find any new issue you find there. And I visited WeWork, the headquarters of WeWork, in April in New York. 650 people working in the headquarters of WeWork. And they are not working in the evolution, they are working on the revolution. But 650 of them are working on that topic. And I met a guy, I know him from NBBJ Architects. He was before at NBBJ. And he was the king of computerization at NBBJ. And I asked him, hey, why you joined WeWork? And he told me, hey, Raphael, you know, at NBBJ I was alone. I was the only nerd for computerization, like Gensler had one for computerization. And here I have now 6 or 8 brothers and sisters who are like me, first. But second is, you know what I have here? I have here data. I have here valuable data, and I can cook with this data every day. I can map, I can predict, and that makes it special. Sure, that will challenge us. And we at VITRA think in 2 kind of questions. Opportunity questions and panic questions. WeWork for sure, I wouldn't say is a panic question, but it's much more panic than opportunity question. Because change a lot of us. One person who makes a purchase, big purchases, they are like, they say the rules, blah, 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 and we have no access to the customer. But that is the world. So thinking in an ecosystem is, we have to understand what is my rule when new species are coming in. It's like a plant which was never before in Singapore, or a fish which was never in your water pond, is now a fish of your water pond. That is life. It affects both of us for sure, and also our customers. But uncertainty, every uncertainty has opportunities inside.
Yes, I agree with that.
King of data.
It's just very interesting. Just now Alvin mentioned whether quality can be quantified one day. I mean, looking from the hospitality point of view, that's exactly what was happening, like 10 years ago. I mean, when you have all those brands, big brands start to have all these standard, long list of manual and all that. So they just repeat the same model in every cities. Very productive. Quality is standardized everywhere, but you see the trends, people are moving away. They don't want some things that is the same everywhere. They go back to, like what you mentioned just now, Airbnb. Then when the group see that Airbnb is working, people want that connection and the authenticity, then all these big brands are going for authentic experience. Everybody try to be different. I mean, like the question we are asking inside our team is like, when everybody try to differentiate themselves, nowadays you are seeing the concept of hotel, it can look different, but the essence is the same. Everybody try to connect to the community, everybody try to be authentic, but what we see is sometimes people do it in a very superficial manner. I mean, like you try to put colors and things like that, make it look different, but you don't feel that authenticity.
Yeah, I think there's another thing what I want to mention with this panorama, and that's in your story. You know the Sofitel group, the hotel group. They're thinking now in Paris, what would happen if we would give the services, what we provide to our guests, to anybody in the neighborhood? So if would we be part of a neighborhood city district with a bar, with a laundry, with. And actually they're working on that to say, hey, the ground floor, to make it much more vivid, to make it vibrant from 6 o'clock in the morning to maybe midnight, we have to change something.
And it's already happening. I mean, everybody is doing this. So our question is, what's next after that? What's next for hospitality? after you open up your public space, and that is actually very logical because as trends change, when you go to hotels, you want to experience the city and all that, you go outside to eat. You don't eat in the hotel restaurant anymore. And for the hotel, might as well, open to the community so the community can come in and the guests, can interact with the local. It's done. I mean, like there are a lot of hotels project that has been completed in that manner. So we are asking ourselves, because we design today, our projects will be completed maybe 4 or 5 years later. So what is the new things then? I mean, so, and it's just that sometimes when we look at all those discussion about producing things with good qualities and all that, we are questioning what happened to craftsmanship, because we feel that with all these things that is very fast, custom made, you can enjoy it, in a short period. People do not respect craftsmanship as much as before.
What? Could you craftsmanship? Yeah. But look, the craftsmanship topic. When I would live here in Singapore, you know what I would open tomorrow? A craftsmanship workshop. That people learn here several kinds of craftsmanship to establish craftsmanship in your country. Where I come from, you can learn carpenter, painter, whatever. All these jobs, you have to do a 3-year, I don't know how to say that, training. Yeah. So, and then you go to examen, and then you get the allowance to do that. And then there's the higher allowance, like the master. Yeah. First you get like the bachelor, and then you get the master.
And you pay that with actually time. No. What I mean is you pay that experience with time. And time in our context is people want things fast. Things move very fast. Are we spending?
Yeah, okay. But you know, at the end of the day, so these decisions can only make by yourself. Because there is a path in life where you make the decision where you stand for. Okay, with 22, maybe it's difficult to say that. With 42 or 40 or 38, you should do that a little bit more. But I can help nobody, so nobody can help you in that kind of question. I would say that is also a question of a society contract. You are in a good position, your country is not so big. The country I have, we are 88 millions. It's big, but also not so super big. Think about China. Think about India. For sure, there's a lot of issues, and I have not for any question in this direction an answer.
She's actually researching this topic very actively herself. Maybe.
Yeah, and maybe you share your experience with me. Yeah.
So that's really her current research. Very, very interesting research, which is ready to share. Any others?
Do you think they'll be even double 60 years time?
Super questions. Currently they had their world conference with their suppliers. They lose in the last year a lot of I would not say acceptance, but they lose revenues, and they are highly rethinking themselves. I would say the strongest asset for them is the customer access, how they are placed. What I believe, if they find the right term to change, 60 years is long, I have no idea what 60 years. But at 10 years I would say yes, for sure. I believe they are too smart to make a big mistake. I believe McDonald's is too smart. Yeah.
But I thought the business model is in real estate, not so much burgers.
That is the question when I say, what is the asset? I mentioned the asset is the customer access. Yeah. Before McDonald's fail, the entire retail industry get a lot of trouble. Yeah. And then you can reinvent the shopping malls. Yeah. Who love it? Trump. The age of Trump. No, there's a name. There's a term. It's called the age of Trump. Think about that. You are 2 years in charge, and then they say in a newspaper, in the age of Trump. In 2 years, he achieved that. Yeah.
Disrupted all.
Yeah. Sure. He really disrupted politics. Yeah.
He's got a short memory too, that's why.
All right. It's 6:30.
One question.
One last question.
a lot of people in DP know what is the so I don't think a lot of people don't know what is well yet, and we all should. We should all find out. By the way, the project is a DP project. It's file labour. Again, I always somehow mention file labour when I say something. But yeah, I mean we're a part of it. You should know what it is.
Well, it's the strongest index for me in the next 5 or 6 years. It brings a lot of pressure into the market.
It's great for architects just to, even if you're not working on a world project, just to know what it's about. And to see, okay, how do I attract people to use the staircase? Right? To introduce, I mean, just in terms of making the staircase, putting music in it, there's little things as well, which is quite cool.
So that relates to what Alvin was saying before. The Well Institute, the Global Well Institute, has actually recently published this year, 2018, quite a definitive research document relating the physical space with wellness. So if you want data to sell to your clients why this would promote wellness, you should look at that document. All you have to do is go to the Global Wellness Institute website. I'll send it to everyone. Yeah, I sent it out to our DPU team, and they're also putting together some walkability. I wanted them to do some walkability research for me, so I'll forward that to everyone. That's a great one. Thanks Tim for reminding us. I went to a different lecture that was held by Lenny's team, and they showed a very interesting chart. They basically charted out if you were born in 1947, your average life expectancy was in the 80s, it was like 87, something like that. But if you were born in 1997, your average life expectancy is 103. So if you imagine, so guys, pre or after, you have to plan for your,
So go for party now. Go for the next 10 years to party, as long as you're young.
Full of geriatrics and all.
No, I mean that new completely changes your idea about wellness. You can't throw away your body like that anymore. Because it has to last.
Make something. Make sport. Make something. Eat organic food. Don't drink alcohol.
Or make alcohol healthy. Right?
That's a campaign. Make alcohol healthy again.
Yes.
That would be a Trump campaign. Make alcohol healthy again.
All right. So it was very invigorating conversation. Great presentation. Very inspiring. Thank you.
And looking